Let's see. All right. Oh no, you guys are getting a look into my very bare closet. This is real time. That's how you know this is live. I'm gonna go close that right now. All right. As per usual, we're gonna start my solo live with an update on my location because that is just what we do because I am always moving. So if you guys saw the update, I am now in Denver. So if any of you guys are in Denver, I actually didn't realize how many of you guys were in Denver until I started talking about this on Instagram. And so many of you guys reached out to me. So if anyone in this group is in Denver and you want to send me some recommendations, or you want to go for a hike, or you want to go for a workout or a coffee or something, please let me know. We're here for 2 months, so we have a little bit more time to really settle in and make it home for a little while. And I have to say, I've been here before, but I didn't expect to love it as much as I already do, given that we've only been here for a couple of days and I haven't even, gone for a hike or anything like that outside of the city. I just love being in a walkable city. And I think that that is something that I took for granted in St. Petersburg and something I didn't realize was bothering me about living in Scottsdale, where it was 115 degrees, but also very suburban. And it was limiting my ability to feel independent by just like walking outside and walking to the grocery store, walking to a workout, walking to meet a friend for a drink, whatever it is. Like, I just like to feel like I can just get out and go and I'm surrounded by other people's energy. So, speaking of seasons of transition and change, that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Other things that are changing is Alessia is in Italy for the next 2 weeks, living her best life. So, I'm probably going to be doing a lot more solo stuff in here, which is always weird because I ran my own business alone for 3 years and didn't have anyone doing any of this stuff with me. And now it's so weird to just talk to you guys, but only look at myself here in the screen. So, I would love to hear more from you guys. I know that it's been a little bit quiet in this group lately, which we're going to talk about all of that. I struggle a lot with what I should say, what I shouldn't say. I always put myself in them. I'm like, I'm a business owner, I'm a leader, I'm a coach, I'm a fitness professional. Like, I should have my shit together and be leading by example. But I think part of leading by example is also setting realistic, I don't even want to say expectations, but just a realistic picture of my life and being vulnerable with you guys. I can create some of the best, most, attention grabbing, Instagram friendly, clickbaity content around if I want to, but I don't actually feel like that connects in the way that I want. And I think that's been something that I've been assessing a lot lately with, we've been talking about some of these things, right? Like the themes of our content have been themes that are present in our lives and our clients' lives. It's always like that, right? If we're talking about, the summer stuff, it's because our clients are experiencing that. If we're talking about, mindset shifts, it's because us and our clients are experiencing that. If we're talking about just like gritting and getting through it and being, organized, it's because that's what we're experiencing. So I always want to keep it real here because I find that that's how I connect best with you guys. And when I really identify like what makes me feel the most fulfilled in this business, in being in this space, is connection, and it's helping and it's teaching. And I have to be authentic in order to do that. So when I've been talking about going through ruts and going through different seasons of your life and transition and change and like letting go of things that are no longer serving you, it's because I am in the thick of it myself. So, we talked about being in a rut. And I think, again, part of that I identified was one, I got some hormone labs back that were pretty not great. And so I think just certain symptoms I was experiencing of just, fatigue and high levels of, mood swings and emotionality make a lot of sense. I hence have been talking a lot about estrogen dominance lately because that's what I'm going through. So, and high cortisol and stress because that's what I'm going through. So again, when I share these things, it's sometimes where I'm like, damn, I should really like be more professional or have my shit more together or, really come at this as more of an expert. But the truth is like, I'm learning and changing and growing and everybody else is too. And so I feel like sharing that with you guys is the only real way to go about it. And I hope that it makes you feel like whatever you're going through is also just like part of the human experience and that we're all kind of in this together. So with that, something that, again, I was experiencing a lot of was just really feeling in a rut and feeling burnout with my fitness, with my business, with just not really feeling like the things that used to be easy for me were still easy. It felt like everything was kind of hard. And I see this a lot with certain clients when they're transitioning from, a previous season of their life to a new season of their life. And I think it's really tempting to say like, oh, I just want to get back to my pre-baby body, right? I think while that is absolutely a possibility, like I think anyone who puts their mind to anything is capable. I'm not saying that that's not a realistic goal. It could be for you, but saying things like, oh, I just really want to get back to the 2020 me where I was doing XYZ and doing all of this, right? It's like those versions of you no longer exist. Quite literally, those are versions of you that will never exist again in your current reality, right? That doesn't mean you can't be in amazing shape and do amazing things and like even be better in a lot of areas, but more so to say, I think it can be really self-sabotaging and detrimental sometimes when, most of us, again, not everything I say applies to everybody, but most of us don't marry the first person we date, right? You go through different relationships. You expect to go through heartbreak. You expect to grow. You expect to be in a few different relationships before the one that you end up with, right? In your career, most people don't stay at the same company or at least in the same role for their entire professional career. That's crazy. Most of us expect, hey, my expectations for pay when I'm at this point right out of college and this little experience and this many hours or whatever is different than what I expect to put in and get out when I'm 60. And same with the responsibilities and same with like the effort I put in and same with the work-life balance that I have. When I started my business in 2020, work-life balance was not a concern because one, it was 2020. And two, I wanted nothing more than to build this business. I had just come off of a season of 9 months of backpacking and hostel hopping and living an amazing experience. And what I wanted through the end of that experience was more structure, more independence, more sense of purpose. And that's why I started building my business. With my own fitness, I got on stage in 2018 twice, did very well, I might add. And ever since then, it has been a goal of mine to get back on stage. I hired the coach that I hired because he was fantastic for competitors. He's really, really good at what he does. I have had protocols in place for the majority of my fitness existence of the last 6 years of tracking macros and training 4 to 5 times a week in the gym that reflected someone who wanted to be a high-level athlete and competitor. All of that being said, I hired coaches, I hired business coaches, I joined programs, I joined mentorships, I kind of structured my life in a way that was working towards those goals, right? I last year joined a business coaching program that was very expensive, that was focused really on a particular way of doing this business. It was for the sake of growing, scaling, hiring a team, building bigger, more systems, more processes, and just like more of an operation. And I think what I've started to realize is the reason that I personally have been in a rut and really feeling like I'm forcing things the last couple of months is because the actions that I'm trying to force no longer align to the vision that I have for my fitness and business and relationship and life goals. And I think that that's something I see a lot with clients, right? Again, it's that, well, I have these shorts in my closet from when I was in college. And again, like, is that inherently a bad goal? No. But I think when you say, I want this version of my body back, I always kind of ask clients, I'm like, okay, well, when you were in that version of your body, what did your life look like? And usually it's completely different from what their life looks like now. Do I think if you were in amazing shape pre-baby and like you're very dedicated that you can get back into that shape? Do I think that there's ever a limit on when you can be in the best shape of your life? No, of course not. We're fucking women. We can do whatever we want because we're fucking capable. But do I think that it can sometimes be very self-sabotaging to continue to try to force yourself into doing certain things that are maybe not in alignment, right? Like your activities and your effort and your energy and your priorities were different then than they are now. I'll keep giving the pre-baby example just because I have so many clients who I work with pre-baby through their pregnancy and then postpartum as well. And it's always something that I see is, you know, they were able to give an hour and 15 minutes dedicated, focused attention, selfish attention to their physique. Their physique and the appearance of their body was the highest priority. Now they don't have that much time to themselves, you know, they want to be in good, healthy shape to take care of their children, their family, themselves, but their priorities have shifted. Their life doesn't look, at least right now in the first couple of years, like it did when they were in the best shape of their life before they got pregnant. And again, it's not impossible at all to get back into that body, but I think we need to be real with ourselves when we're saying like, hey, am I setting myself up to feel like a failure every week of my check-in or every week that Monday starts or whatever it is, when I continue to say things like, I want to be this version of myself from, you know, 2018 when I was my leanest, or when I was, you know, for me, I've been giving myself a lot of, I guess, negative talk around like, damn, like this used to be so easy for me. Why is it hard now? And something I realized was I have not, and I've made peace with this, I have not had the goal of getting on stage for at least the last like 8 months. I've been very, very clear that like my intuition, my gut, my just what I care about now is not in alignment with being a bikini competitor. And there's nothing wrong with that. I still think it's very entertaining to watch. I think it's incredibly, like, it builds a lot of resilience. It builds a lot of grit. I think the athletes who do it are amazing. I personally just have re-evaluated what my priorities and my goals in my life are. And like the direction that I'm being pulled right now is very holistic. It is very hormone centered. It is very gut health centered. It is very woo-woo. It is very whole person. It is spiritual. It is journaling and meditation and rewiring your subconscious and really like, again, listening to your body in a lot of ways. That goes so strongly in opposition with what bodybuilding competition and preparation is. It is pushing your body past its limits, not listening to any of those signals and just doing it anyways. And again, that's not inherently bad. I'm just in a season of my life now where I'm, you know, 33 years old, and I don't particularly feel like pushing myself into that state of stress on my body when I have worked so hard with myself and my clients to do things that is so, again, holistic and moving so many of us women that are stuck in this fight or flight state into this more parasympathetic, like more, again, intuitive, more feminine energy, more flow, more whole person nourishing. And it just is so strongly in opposition with competing. So the reason that I'm having a hard time hitting extremely rigid protocols for myself is because those extremely rigid protocols were what I put in place when I wanted to be a competitor. And I'm still trying to execute them, having no desire to do that. So I'm really running into a lot of opposition. And that was really making me feel like a failure every week when I was checking in. I shared with you guys 2 weeks ago some things that we do with clients to make things more flexible, right? We talked about calorie cycling. We talked about, you know, with a lot of my clients, they don't have to, I have a couple clients who want to get on stage. Most of them don't. So those clients that just want to be healthier, you know, and feel better and lose a little bit of weight, they're focused usually on protein, you know, micronutrient servings, calorie ranges, right? To make things structured yet flexible. However, I have never once implemented those protocols with myself. I have always tracked protein, carbs, and fats to the gram every day, unless I'm taking, you know, a vacation or I have an untracked meal for a special occasion or something. Those protocols are no longer necessary for what I'm trying to achieve in my personal fitness life. So I think that was something that I recognized. So maybe there's always going to be an element of having to do shit you don't want to do to reach goals. Okay. And I want to make that abundantly clear. If I'm your coach, I am going to push you. If I know this goal is important to you and I know how you're going to get there, I'm going to hold you accountable to that. But I think it's really important. And this is why we do 8-week and 5-month check-in points with our clients with like Zoom calls, is because let's recheck that these are actually the goals that you have. Because sometimes we get into it thinking, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to reach these goals. And then we actually realize what's required of that. And we start to go towards it and realize maybe it's not bringing us as much fulfillment as we originally thought, right? So reevaluating your goals and really getting in touch with what those goals are is really important, because I think a lot of times what causes us anxiety is not the list of things we have to do. It's knowing that something's important to us and not doing the things that we know we need to do to get there. So I see this a lot with client check-ins when they're experiencing this sort of like cognitive dissonance, right? Between saying, yes, this is so important to me, this is my top priority, this thing that I'm trying to achieve, but then their check-ins every week don't reflect that, right? They know that they should be doing XYZ, but they're not, and they're saying it's important to them. So a lot of times we talk about like, okay, what outcome here is really going to make you the happiest? And for me, competing is not going to make me the happiest. It's probably going to do the opposite. That's me. Again, if that's your goal to compete, amazing. I love that journey for you. I went on it as well. It's just not where I am in my life anymore. And so that was something I had to like really come to terms with recently is, hey, the reason I'm struggling to hit these protocols that have previously been so easy for me, it used to be my life, like I lived to hit my macros and to go to the gym 5 days a week and to spend 2 hours in there so that I could stretch and video content and foam roll and do my lift and, talk to people there. And it used to be so much more all encompassing for me. And it's just not that way anymore. And that's okay. My goal now is to be the healthiest person hormonally, spiritually, emotionally, and like, hell yeah, that's going to include lifting and eating well. And I'm still going to have a macro range target goal so that I can make sure that I'm fueling myself appropriately. But the reason that things were feeling forced is because the actions I was trying to force myself into just don't fit the current version of me. They only fit the previous version of me. So if you're sitting here holding on to, I just want to be, I don't know why it used to be so easy for me to go to the gym 6 days a week and now I can hardly make 2. And I wish I was, as fit as I was in college. It's like, okay, well, let's run it back to college. Like, what were you doing and how was your life when you were 20, 21 years old? You probably had a hell of a lot less responsibility. Your priorities probably changed. You're probably way more focused on your physical appearance. And now you have a lot more self-worth in your whole person. So having abs is just maybe not as much of a driver as it used to be. And that's okay. Like, we are all dynamic, changing, evolutionary people. You're supposed to change. Like, if you were doing, even in my business, the amount of reiterations of things I've done, how I coached in the beginning, how I had my systems set up, like just how I talked, what content I created, what I was focused on, like all of that stuff has changed so much in the last 4 years. And it should, like, again, you are an ever changing, evolving, growing person. If you are realizing that you are in a different season of your life than you once were, stop beating yourself up for not being that former version of yourself and really check in with like, what does this current version of me need in order to be happy, in order to be successful? Like, what does success look like to me? Because I think we think it's supposed to look a certain way and we hold ourselves to that. Like, I've struggled with this, just going to be completely candid with you guys. I probably shouldn't, but I will, with my business, I got into this mentorship program to, build a business and grow and scale and be this boss ass bitch business owner, which like I do want to do, but in my own way. I climbed the corporate ladder and did that and really hustled and grinded and, really put all of my self-worth into my productivity and my achievements for the first 6 years post-college and honestly in college as well. When I was climbing the corporate ladder and I had a corporate job and I was trying to, continue to grow and get promoted and advance. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's great. And the sense of achievement's important. Growth is important. But I started to realize that I was feeling like I was doing that with my business again, when I realized like, hey, this program teaches you how to be successful in a certain way, to talk about your program in a certain way, to talk about the results in a certain way, and I know more people care about fat loss than anything else. I just care more about internal health and holistic health. And I know that focusing on those things gets you to the results much easier, right? We can focus on a calorie deficit all day long, but if your hormones are shit, your mindset is shit, your gut health is a wreck, it's going to be an uphill battle and it's going to feel shitty for you. So maybe within my program, it takes you 2 years to get to where you want to be, but hopefully you stay there, right? Versus me speaking in a particular way to get you interested in our program for fat loss when I know that what you need is so much deeper than that. I just was feeling really misaligned with wanting to sort of put myself back in this hustle culture, grind culture kind of mentality where, the motto sort of our business coaching program I was in was kind of like, do it anyways and be all in, and I think that's great. Like, really dedicate yourself to what you're doing, especially if the business that you're building helps people and concerns people's health. But it started to feel like the actions I was trying to force myself to do were aligned to the outcome of having a really big business with a lot of employees and a lot of responsibility and very little freedom, and kind of like emulating the lifestyle that I left when I left my corporate job to kind of go on this journey. And so I think letting go of some of those things and saying, okay, it doesn't actually make me lazy. It doesn't make me wrong. It doesn't make me, not good enough or not cut out for being a health coach or being a fitness coach or being a business owner, because I want to do things a different way that serve me better now. Me in 2020 in my first business coaching program, I wanted to grind. I wanted to hustle. I wanted to crank out content. I wanted to scale as fast as possible. I wanted to run ads. I wanted to do all of that. And now that I've kind of gone through this for 4 years, I think what I want is to have a smaller roster of clients between Alessia and I who are just incredibly aligned soul clients who want to work on all facets of their health, not just losing fat. I want to have people. It has always felt very icky to me to try to really strongly, like, I don't want to say overcome objections to coaching, because I think sometimes people need to be pushed. And I think a lot of times people are getting in their own way and making excuses. And I will be the first person to call you out on that. And I have no shame about that. But it's always felt really misaligned for me to try to convince anyone to be in this program who wasn't really excited about it. Because if I have to do that, I'm going to have to do that the whole time we're working together, right? I don't want people here who are not ready to, who don't feel excited to be with us, who don't feel aligned to our mission, who don't feel very confident that like we are the right fit for them. I don't care if that means that we make less money, if it means that like our work is incredibly fulfilling and successful for everyone involved. And so I think me trying to take certain actions in my business to crank out more content, be on more platforms and have more, lead flow and, outsource a bunch of things was just feeling kind of hard. I was feeling a lot of resistance to some of those actions, again, both in my fitness and in my business journey right now, because I finally realized once we got to Denver and had a chance to clear my head, I was like, the reason that this feels hard is because these actions don't align with the outcome I want now. They used to the outcome I used to want. And so I'm still trying to stick myself into that same, like, I'm now a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. I used to be a round peg trying to fit into the round hole. And so it worked. And those things were moving me in the direction I wanted to go. My direction has changed. I want to spend a lot of time personally invested in my own education again about hormone and gut health. And I want to share that information with you. It's more important to me right now to dive headfirst into that type of research and that type of lab reading and that type of, just very much holistic approach. And so it's been very hard for me, I think, to create content that doesn't align with that, even though that content would grow my business bigger and faster. Same thing with me tracking my macros to a T every single day and me training in a progressive overload hypertrophy style 5 days a week, going to bed at the same time every day and, really maximizing my recovery. And like, you should still do those things, right? I'm not saying any of those things are bad. I'm saying more so like, I'm realizing now that 3 days a week of weightlifting is probably a better fit for me right now. And 1 or 2 days a week of doing something like a hike in Denver and doing something like a fitness class, because there's a ton of boutique gyms here and classes, and I want to make friends here. Those things didn't align with me being a competitor. That wouldn't have worked for me to be a high level competitor. That wouldn't have worked, honestly, for me to get into, build my muscle and really get toned if I hadn't been there before. It is working now for me to maintain the body that I have now while also focusing on my bigger goals, which are optimizing my hormone function and being really, really in touch with my body. So I know this has been kind of a ramble. I really thought these would be shorter with Alessia not being on here because we can go forever. She and I can ping off each other. As you guys know, I love having her on because it's so conversational. I really didn't think I was going to be able to just talk to myself by myself for 30 minutes, but here we go. And I know that there wasn't necessarily a ton of really, really practical, tactical, use this, and get to your goals type of information here, but I hope that there was at least some value in giving you permission to reevaluate your goals and your lifestyle. If you are, someone who is a business owner, or you have a couple side hustles, or you have a couple kids, or you are just like on a little bit of a different journey. Maybe you're on a spiritual journey right now. Maybe you are, navigating some sort of relationship change. Maybe you are navigating some sort of life change, and you're just feeling like everything feels harder than it should. I think that there's a couple things to evaluate there, right? It's like really sit down and ask yourself, like, okay, I started this journey, whatever it was for me, fitness, with I hated my body for so long, if I'm being real with you guys. I struggled with disordered eating for a very long time. I punished myself with exercise for a very long time. So the driver for me when I got into fitness was desperate to change my body. I wanted to feel good in my body, and I did. And the things I did really helped me to grow to love the process and really appreciate my body, appreciate food, and appreciate my ability to exercise, and really realize that I could help people. And that transitioned into business and fitness and competing and everything else. And I had really great seasons with those things, but the level of rigidity that I'm expecting of myself now, really getting down on myself, honestly, hard of myself. Like, I'm a fucking coach. Why has it been hard for me to hit my macros to a T? Why has it been hard for me to get to the gym 5 days a week? Why has it been hard for me to feel like I really want to push myself as hard as I used to? Part of that is, as I also shared with you guys, I was dieting for a while because I really wanted to get lean and see how much muscle I had built ultimately so that I could see if I was ready for the stage again or not. I'm now at a point where I really like the level of leanness I have, but I'm okay personally with putting on 5 more pounds of body fat to have more energy and to feel stronger and to feel better and to focus on supporting my hormones that need supporting right now. That's a bigger goal to me than wearing a crop top for the rest of the summer. Just going to be real with you guys. And so I think for me, realizing, hey, my sub 1,500 calorie target and my, tracking each macro every single day and having 4 cardio sessions a week and trying to, just do all of these things and, work a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in my business to build and grow and like really be in that hustle culture. That just doesn't actually align with me. Like, getting my cortisol to a good place and getting my estrogen to a good place and really regulating my menstrual cycle and being in a place where I can detach a little bit from my masculine energy. Bodybuilding and business owning does kind of lend you to go a little bit more into that. And again, there's seasons for everything. I'm not saying anything I've ever done is wrong. It's all led me here. It's where I'm supposed to be. I loved my hustle seasons. I loved my grind seasons because the coast seasons that follow those make it worth it, right? And you can really experience both. Same thing with really figuring out what I'm made of and getting on stage and pushing my body to my absolute limits and pushing past them and just like really developing that like mental grit. All of that was extremely valuable. It's not where I am anymore, and that's okay. So I think if you're finding yourself frustrated with your progress every week or frustrated with your effort every week, and you're comparing a version of yourself now who probably has kids, who probably has multiple, responsibilities, whether they be income streams or businesses or projects or whatever, if your main goal right now is health, it doesn't necessarily have to look as committed and serious as it did maybe from a protocol perspective when it did when you were in college and you had no other responsibilities besides going to school. This is something, again, I see a lot with clients. Promise this is my first coffee of the day and I have already had 2 meals. Drink your caffeine after you've had food, not in the first 90 minutes of waking. if you would like to have healthy cortisol and adrenal function. And I'll be talking more about that because, again, the easiest way for me to share with you guys is for it to be what's going on in our clients' lives, our lives. And I know, again, this wasn't necessarily like I always say, I'm going to get in here, be quick, 15 minutes so you guys can listen on the fly, take something from it immediately. Here's 5 ways to do this. Here's, what you should focus on for this. Here's 10 ways to get in more fiber. Like, I think those things are really important too, but I just wouldn't be authentically showing up with you guys if I didn't kind of express what was on my heart and on my mind again, which is, are you stabbing yourself? Are you shooting yourself in the foot? Are you setting yourself up to feel like a failure by forcing yourself to try to fit into a mold of you that doesn't exist anymore? I'm going to tell you what, my wardrobe has changed 4 times this year as I've changed locations. My Denver wardrobe didn't really work in Scottsdale. My Scottsdale wardrobe definitely doesn't work in Denver. That's okay to do in seasons of your life and your goals as well. So don't be afraid to change your seasonal wardrobe to like better fit your current circumstances. Again, you're always going to have to do shit you don't want to do when it comes to reaching your goals. If you have a goal of building your best physique, you have a goal of balancing your hormones, like you're going to have to change things. If you want things to change, things have to change, right? If you want different outcomes, you got to do different actions to get there. But the inverse is true too. If you realize like, hey, maybe this goal of, getting my abs back from when I was 20 years old, just the activities, while it's possible, anything is possible, you guys. If you're like, but I want to do that, cool, you can. If you want to build a 7-figure business with 10 employees, you can. You just have to make sure that's actually what you want for you. And you're not kind of forcing that because it's what you should be doing or you think you should be doing. In my case, I was like, oh, in order to be successful, my business has to look like this. And then I realized the whole point of owning a business is to be able to do things the way I want to do them and that feel very aligned to me. And the same is true for you. So if you are, again, trying to force yourself into a previous wardrobe, perhaps, just recognize too, like your body's going to change, your life is going to change, your priorities are going to change. If you're just on the actual wardrobe front, if you are like, oh my God, my pants don't fit me anymore, girl, you're probably building muscle, you're building a butt. Why are you trying to force your new body that you actually wanted, toned, strong, muscular, curvy, into shorts that fit a version of you that was, skinny and 17 years old? Like, it's the same concept. So again, I appreciate you guys for just like being along for the journey with us. Alessia and I have a really hard time of just keeping things surface level, keeping things short and not being totally transparent with you guys. So I hope that you guys at least appreciate that and feel connected to us in the way that we want to feel connected to you. And so in that sort of vein of connection, something I wanted to bring up, and you guys are going to get first look at this tomorrow, is I was sitting down a lot over the past month trying to force content, trying to sit down and be like, okay, write the emails, write the posts, make the reels, and I was just really struggling with what to do. And so I really sat this week and thought, like, what makes me feel most fulfilled in this business? It's connecting. It's when I get on Zoom calls with prospective clients. It's when I get on Zoom calls with current clients. It's when Alessia and I get on our Zoom calls to talk about the impact that we want to have. Like, that drives me, that fulfills me, that connection. Teaching fulfills me. Being able to take something maybe complicated and confusing and sciencey and break it down and make it digestible to people so that they don't have to do years of research on it like I did. Teaching, connecting, guiding, that's what makes me feel really good in my business. So what I want to do next week, I'm going to be gone this weekend, but starting Tuesday the 1st, so we're going to start August this way, I'm going to start doing strategy calls through free 30-minute strategy calls for anyone who wants them. I'm going to only be limiting them to 5 a week though. So if I find that only 5 people want them this week, we'll do that. If I find that there's a huge demand for it, maybe we'll add a second week, but this is not a sales call. This is not a perspective coaching call. This is 30 minutes of just like free strategy guidance call. If you have wanted to ask us certain questions, but were maybe afraid to do so, or it was too hard to text, like, oh God, there's kind of a lot here. I don't know that I can just explain it in text. Or if you're like, hey, I'm doing these things, I have a lot of this under control, but I just really need some direction on what I need to do next with my nutrition, with my fitness, whatever. I'm not going to like do any lab work reading just because
I don't do that unless you're a current client and I know what your food looks like because I can see your food logs and I know what your exercise looks like and I know what your lifestyle looks like and I know what we're working on and I know how your stress management is. Like, I need to know all those things in order to interpret hormone lab work for you. So I won't be doing that on these calls. But I will be doing sort of assessments, troubleshooting, guidance, just help, general advice. So those are going to be 5 free, no strings attached. The only commitment required is that you show up to the call. Don't book that call, take up space from somebody else and then not show up. I will be mad at you for that. That's my only one thing is like, don't ghost. I don't care if our coach, I care, but like if our coaching's not a fit for you, if you don't want to move forward, if you don't want to take our advice, like no hard feelings. If you take this spot from someone else, or if we spend 45 minutes talking to each other and you ghost me when I follow up with you, then I will have a problem. But other than that, there's no commitment. So 5 calls, I'm going to book the link. I'm going to post the link to book those calls tomorrow. Again, these are for non-clients. You don't have to work with us. You don't have to even be attempting to work with us in order to book one of these calls. This is just for our community because I want to connect, I want to guide, I want to help. That's what makes me feel fulfilled. And so instead of creating a bunch of random content just to fill space, I'm just going to do strategy calls next week. So I hope that some of you guys will take advantage of that because free coaching for 30 minutes. And I hope to get to connect with you guys and get to know you a little bit better. It helps me too, again, to create content better when I'm actually having real conversations with you guys about what you're struggling with. Again, because our clients have different journeys than you guys who are not clients. And so I want to be able to make content that helps you. And in order to do that, I need to know you. So I hope that this somehow helped some of you guys, maybe with just mindset or, just kind of like, again, reevaluating where you're at. And I hope to talk to some of you guys next week on those strategy calls. But thank you for joining. Thank you for tuning in. Send me a message if this resonated with you. Send me a message if this was helpful. As I said, I love talking to you guys, so please don't be shy.